So Iran was building nuclear weapons when they shouldn't have been. America went in, and probably the most badass military operation that's ever happened in the history of my existence. Iran just today started launching missiles trying to hurt American bases in the Middle East, specifically the one in Qatar. And now Trump is calling for a ceasefire or not. I mean, it's kind of confusing, everything that's going on. But how does this relate to Canada? Because a lot of Canadians are going, well, it's not our war. Even a lot of Americans are going, it's not our war. This is Israel's war in the Middle East. Trump literally campaigned on anti-war. He's been the most anti-war person that we've ever really known. I mean, for crying out loud, he's been so consistent in his messaging for 40 or 50 years. The guy doesn't want war. But he's also been consistent about nuclear weapons and the fact that Iran is not allowed any. So how did we get here? What's going to happen? And what's Canada's role in this? Well, everything is going to be explained in this video. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. Things are getting crazy. I mean, there's updates left, right, and center. It's evolving minute by minute. Tensions are really, really high. No casualties as of yet. But Canada's involvement is just beginning. Mark Carney is in Brussels right now, meeting with other world leaders, meeting with people from the European Union in anticipation of the NATO summit, which is scheduled to happen very, very soon. Will Trump participate in the NATO summit? I don't actually know. He might do it electronically. He might zoom in from the war room or whatever. But I think that Trump has other things on his plate than meeting with a bunch of elites to talk about how to continue elitism. There's just a lot of things going on. But something that is strangely starting to shift, the narrative is starting to shift, that NATO countries independently stand with the fact that Iran is not allowed nuclear weapons, which ipso de facto means that they stand with the fact that America pulled off this Project Midnight Hammer, I'm going to whoop your ass back where you came from kind of thing, which is kind of crazy. Now, multiple things are going to happen from this. Counterattacks, sleeper cells, probably terrorism through the wazoo is going to skyrocket because Iran is not happy. The Middle East is not happy. And people out there are going to try to issue a massive FU to the United States or to North America, which is where Canada is. Now, Canada plays a crucial role in the terrorism aspect. Our laws, our border laws, our refugee asylum seeking laws, our immigration laws are almost non-existent. I mean, you can literally be from another country and say, hey, I participate in Pride Month. I'm a part of the Alphabet Mafia. And then Canada officials say, welcome to Canada. You are now officially an asylum seeker. Here's your money. Go there, go there, go there, get set up. That's crazy for multiple reasons, but specifically focusing on the terrorism aspect, we need heightened security now more than ever. So I've actually taken to X and I called for, not that my voice matters, but I literally called for the end of Canadian immigration and asylum seeking, at least as of right now. And I think a lot of people kind of agree. Maybe they don't know where this came from, but I literally took to X earlier this morning saying Canada needs to close its borders ASAP, halt immigration and asylum seeking programs immediately. Now, where that came from was in participation of everything else that's going on, specifically between America and the Middle East, is the fact that we're going to be used and abused. Like, we know that terrorists have come into Canada in the past, and they will very likely continue to do that. Now, under liberal policies, this is somehow still freaking allowed. So we're just going to have to wait and see how this plays out. But enough about what's going to happen, what could happen. Let's take a look at what is actually happening. But before we do, I do have a message from today's sponsor. I'm not going to lie, I'm still pretty sad about the election loss. And crazy part is, depending what side you're actually on, either you view this as a good thing or you view this as a bad thing. But the reality is, to quote a liberal, that the work is just beginning. And that's exactly why I go to Ground News. Ground News is the literal best way to cut through all of the crap and get right to the truth. Even when it feels like everything is stacked against you, these stories remind you that you're not alone. Take the story on Mark Carney and liberals pulling it off. Almost 400 sources are covering it from all across the political spectrum. Sherwood News, a left-leaning media outlet, saying that Canada's backlash against Trump tariff is reshaping our northern borders shopping habits. Meanwhile, on the right, The Hub is saying that Need to Know, Carney tried to distance himself from Justin Trudeau during the French language debate. It's a hard case to make. One of my favorite features of Ground News is the blind spot feature that shows you stories that you would have missed from the left and from the right. Canada is more polarized than ever before, and with Mark Carney as Prime Minister, it's probably going to get significantly worse. So if you want to make sure that you're getting the full story, make sure you click the link down below in the description, or use the pinned comment below, or scan the QR code on the screen, or visit ground.news/sun to get yourself 40% off the Vantage plan today. It may feel like it's going to be a long few years, but we're all in this together, and let's just reshape the whole chicken dance thing, and let's just end it with keep your stick on the ice. Okay, so a couple of things. This isn't just going to 100% be about the war in the Middle East. It'll be 95% of it. But since this is a Canadian channel, and since I do live in British Columbia, I do have to talk about the fact that the British Columbia Premier, David Eby, Woody from Toy Story with massive depression, is against the pipeline that Alberta wants to do in order to be a massive energy provider to not only the country, but just to make us money. So let's take a look at what he said.
British Columbia's Premier David Eby continues to downplay the idea of a new northern pipeline from Alberta to the coast, but insists it's not a point of friction. He spoke with CTV's Vashi Kapelos on Question Period over the weekend, reiterating his promise that he's open to discussion, even if he thinks a new route is unlikely.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like the media is gathering around and chanting fight, fight, fight between us and Alberta right now. There's no fight here. The concern that I have is a matter of priorities. You know, we have a taxpayer-funded pipeline, the TMX pipeline. It's owned by Canadians. It's not operating at capacity. There's 200,000 additional barrels of capacity in that pipeline. Let's start there.
Now, Eby has faced criticism from Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith on this issue. She insists that he is the only one holding up the process.
Yeah, I mean, long story short, we need oil now more than ever. So you better get to it, David Eby, instead of just sitting there and being condescending, going, oh, well, it feels like a manual's. Yeah, how about you just do your job and you just approve money-making industries like oil and gas? But that's my opinion. I'd love to know yours. Now, we're going to take a look at what's going to happen, at least what CTV and analysts predict is going to happen at the NATO summit that Mark Carney is attending. Let's take a look.
Well, we all know that the NATO summit, as we just teased there, is going to place a lot of focus around the 5% mark and how it's broken down. There's, 1.5 of that percent, talking many billions, is going to be dedicated to defense infrastructure. That mark may not be as hard for Canada to get to as we might think, given our increased investments and the spending we do already on defense infrastructure and plan to do. But to me, actually, what I'm going to be watching is today. I'm watching to see this defense and security partnership and pact with the EU. What are the details of it? How sweeping is it? And also wondering if we'll get a hint as to what else it might foretell. How is the Prime Minister trying to pursue deeper relations with Europe? It's a massive market. And as we struggle with these talks with the United States, either as leverage in those talks or as an alternative to those talks for our producers and for our employees, will we be trying to finish up the free trade agreement with Europe? Will we be trying to advance it in some way? So I've got my eyes peeled on that big 700, 800 million block of people over there across the pond.
And will we know when Carney departs whether or not progress has been made, if there's something concrete to point to?
I think we will have hints. I think we'll definitely have this defense and security partnership, so we'll know some details about that. But they're not going to just drop that. They're going to drop it, Marcia, and they're going to tell us what it means and what the context is. So is this step one or a further step down a path of us potentially working even more closely, integrating more thoroughly with Europe? I think we'll be looking for those kinds of hints, and they'll get asked explicitly about the state of trade talks. They'll get asked explicitly about whether those are being expedited. I mean, look, people are going to ask questions discussions about Canada actually seeking to become a member of the EU, which, is a big deal, when you think about how it's constructed and the euro and currency issues. But still, that talk doesn't seem so crazy all of a sudden. So I think we're definitely going to get some hints and some clues, and we'll be able to conclude from that.
Right. And certainly when the agenda was put out for this NATO meeting, the U.S. had not yet struck Iran.
Yeah.
So now that kind of changes things. Obviously, that's going to be top of mind. I wanted to get a final thought from you this morning on how Canada would come up with the messaging. And was it delicate in the statement that they put out yesterday, and we're continuing to hear today, about supporting the U.S. and condemning Iran's nuclear ambitions? Would that be challenging for the PMO to walk, a fine line on this and not sounding like Canada wanted to see a wider war?
Yeah, of course it is.
Canada doesn't want to see a wider war. America doesn't want to see a wider war. But what the good guys in the world are saying is unanimous across the board. Iran is not allowed to have nuclear weapons. That's it. Canada's not getting their hands dirty. We have no affiliation yet to what America did. We support it. We share land with America. We have a border with them, but that's it. That's it.
An extraordinarily delicate balancing act, because more than one thing is happening here, and there's more than one consideration that gets poured into that statement. So on the one hand, of course, there's the direct issue itself, and whether you believe that if the United States pursues regime change, that's going to widen the scope of this and turn this into a regional conflict and make things worse. So you hear the government saying, let's really try to double down on diplomatic remedies. Obviously, the government is going to fall in with just about everybody else in the Western world and say, if there is an opportunity to halt definitively Iran's march toward a nuclear program, by all means, then we want to take that opportunity. We want to do everything possible to further that. But there's a subtext to all of this, as I think you're getting at, which is that we're in delicate trade discussions. And you can't dare say anything in a statement, even about a topic as sensitive and significant as this Iran-Israel war. You can't say anything that might alienate the President of the United States and then jeopardize those talks. He flies off the handle so easily with so little provocation. Might he take offense at the slightest syllable? And all of a sudden it's like, you know what? You're going to the bottom of the pile when it comes to trade negotiations and renegotiations. So there's a lot that goes into construction.
Yeah, but to be fair, the prime minister has been going around to the media saying our relationship with America is over as we know it. So it's not just a delicate situation. It's a situation that Mark Carney has already seemingly burnt the bridge to. You know how to fix this? Pick up the phone and call the president and say, you know what? Whatever you want, trade, let's do it. We want America happy. Obviously, we have taken our position for granted. The fact that you guys have us and you guys subsidize us to the tune of $200 billion a year. Tell them that, whatever, because they kind of do, not necessarily through trade, but through protection. Now, America isn't necessarily going to allow bad things to happen to Canada, because then that would be future leading to bad things potentially happening to America, like invasion of territory. But that doesn't mean that we get to just take that situation for granted because we're so blessed to be here with the land and sharing the same continent with them. No, that's insane. That's absurd. We can fix this. Prime Minister Carney, get on social media and start apologizing to Trump, saying, okay, let's make a deal. Let's get the trade. How much oil do you need? Boom, 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 boom. Let's do this, because we have to start preparing for the worst. Hope for the best. Plan for the worst. And the worst seems to be already here. The fact that, hey man, a war could be happening and we're going to need a shit ton of oil and gas, because we are going to be pumping planes and jet fuel, and we're going to be doing a whole lot of stuff. We need money. We need fuel. Get it done. Alberta could be a superpower for that. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. So next up, we're taking a look at Carney going up to the Prime Minister in Brussels. Look at this. Hey, old friend, how's it going?
Better to be early than late. That's true. Yeah. Apologies, you lose all of your life by being on time. Let alone come early. We're gonna take a picture here. Maybe. Du hörde Squiggly vers au Canada, c'est vers l'an. Parce qu'ils sont, parce que si je suis au devant du drapeau canadien, c'est...
Yeah, you should be doing it the opposite way.
Ah oui, c'est vrai, oui, mais on peut se mettre au milieu, ça vous préférez?
I don't really know what he's saying, but what I'm picturing is the fact that usually you have the country's flag behind you, and if it's two people, you stand in front of the other country's flag. Like in at G7, when Trump would meet with Carney, Trump was standing in front of a Canadian flag, and Carney was standing in front of an American flag. That's how that works. I'm pretty sure that's what they were discussing. That's what makes the most sense for photo ops.
Okay, of course.
Doing the pressers. Look at that, photo ops.
There we are. Okay.
Carney just fit right in, huh? Look at that. He went from a private citizen, a banker, to now the most powerful man in Canada and a seat at the G7. Holy smokes, man. What a weird circumstance all this has been, huh? The shift in Canada. I mean, you can't say that he doesn't like the spotlight, because he seems to really love the spotlight. And speaking of spotlight, this is what he had to say. Just listen to what he has to say. I'm not even going to tell you where it is.
This partnership that you've signed today, and recognizing that there is still some negotiation to do, Europe has its own defense industrial capacity challenges right now, Europe, just like Canada does. Can you explain how this particular partnership that you've signed today is going to get military equipment into the hands of the Canadian forces quickly, how it's going to expand Canada's defense industrial base, and how you're going to pay for it?
Yeah. So thank you very much for the question. The first thing, in terms of the challenges / opportunities that exist both for Europe and for Canada, is that we're both embarking on major investments in our defense capacities. We have some complementarities that will allow us both to move more rapidly because we have excess capacity in certain areas. For example, one of the things we need in Canada is just straight munitions, okay, a very simple thing. Cooperation in aerospace, where there are complementarities both in European leadership, but also some Canadian leadership as well. Complementarities in areas related to, sorry to use the jargon, but the defense industrial pledge, so related defense spending that has dual use or other uses. And President von der Leyen mentioned AI and cyber, those areas which will be incredibly important for defense. So right at the point where both of our jurisdictions need to increase to combat defense threats, we pool our resources, or we can pool much of our resources. We'll be more than the sum of the parts. And as we build up those resources, we can do those in a way that's complementary and mutually reinforcing. One of the ways we can pay for this is the fact that what we will do should be more efficient for both of us, should be more cost effective for both of us. The second thing is to recognize that if we do this right, we will also be building our overall economic capacity, which will be part of what's self-reinforcing.
Oh my goodness. So again, going behind Papa Trump's back to make a deal with Europe is literally anything but just working with the United States. It's so freaking bizarre. He's obsessed with Europe. It's like it was his first love, and now everything that Mark Carney does is just going right back to Europe. It's very weird, but I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you think this is good for Canada? Do you think this is bad for Canada? Let me know your reasoning down below. Next up, we're taking a look at this weird article that's come out. So Iran has not yet received any ceasefire proposal, senior officials say. So this is coming from the official, said that Iran would continue to fight until it achieves lasting peace, and that it would view remarks from Israel and the United States as deception intended to justify attacks on Iran's interests. At this very moment, the enemy is committing aggression against Iran, and Iran is on the verge of intensifying its retaliatory strikes with no ear to listen to the lies of its enemies, the official said. And that's because apparently the president said that there would be a ceasefire, but now it's coming out that Iran's saying we never got any word of that. So it's all very conflicting. Again, there is, I hate to use this word because it's a weird liberal term, but there's a lot of mis and disinformation, a lot of claims online, accounts that are trying to gain a lot of popularity saying, hey, this is what the Iranian official said, this is what Trump's doing, this is where military movements are happening. So just be very careful when it comes to those very specific military and strategic involvements, because again, everything is happening so fast, and the go-to source literally for North America for news is X. That's where you're getting information just so freaking fast. But when there's official videos and official confirmation as to what the White House is saying, specifically the president, or in this case, the vice president, well, that's credible enough. Let's take a look at what JD Vance had to say.
American national security interest here is very simple. It's to destroy the nuclear program. That's what we've done. And now that the 12-day war appears to be effectively over, we have an opportunity, I think, to restart a real peace process. And Brett, this is not just about two countries, Iran and Israel. All of these Gulf Arab states, they want peace. They want to invest. They want to build artificial intelligence hardware. They want to sort of come into the new economy. And that was impossible when you had Iran that was, as the president said, acting like a bully across the Middle East. We really think that if the Iranians are smart about the path forward, this could be a new dawn of an economic age of prosperity, of course, for our Gulf Arab allies, for us, for the Israelis, for everybody, but it's going to require the Iranians play it smart from here.
The president called it very weak, the Iran missile firing on.
So there you go. It seems like the president and the White House and America is working towards mitigating any sort of, increase in tensions. And I, for one thing, this is good. America did their thing. They denuclearized Iran. That helped save the world. That's awesome. Iran took their shot at the American base. Trump obviously knew that was going to happen. That base got cleared out days prior, and Iran gave America notice that they were going to be launching a strike to, limit any civilian casualties. So there were precautions that were taking place, and Trump's response to it was absolutely insane. We got to thank Iran for the warning. No damage was done. Like, you just imagine exactly how he said it. So it seems like maybe we might be finding a little bit more peace a little bit sooner than we anticipated, or this is just a precursor for World War III and we're just in the eye of the storm. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you think that we're just getting started, or do you think that it's coming to an end? Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. If you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.